To achieve spiritual purity, our default instinct is to impose strict order. We build frameworks of discipline to suppress internal chaos. But in his 1976 discourses, Osho identifies a mechanical flaw in this approach. Enforcing order from the top down fails to produce a pure state. The practitioner falls into a dual trap. First, they attempt to mandate moral purity through rigid rules. Second, they try to force physical stillness by locking the body into specific, static postures. These behaviors do not eliminate internal volatility. Instead, the intellect actively pushes that chaos into the subconscious. The noise isn't silenced, it is merely trapped. Any spiritual or moral system relying on rigid conditioning ignores the actual mechanics of the human psyche. This realization necessitates a structural shift in how we define practice. Osho redefines purity, or punyatam, not as an achievement of discipline, but as a spontaneous, heart-centered state. It is a return to the unconditioned psychology of a child. This diagram models the psyche under head-enforced discipline. A rigid surface layer of control creates a dangerous psychological undercurrent. Suppressed emotions boil beneath the surface. The result is a practitioner sitting on a volcano, locked in an exhausting fight against their internal nature. Because of this pressure, true purity cannot be engineered through top-down control. It emerges only when internal pressure is absent, allowing a bottom-up, spontaneous state to arise. The fragility of institutional conditioning is best seen in the case of Pope John XXIII. Despite his high office, he was known for a peasant-like simplicity that often unsettled the Vatican's diplomatic circles. Ahead of a major state visit from the American First Lady, his staff spent 7 days conditioning him. They trained the Pope in rigorous diplomatic protocol, etiquette, and exact phrasing to ensure his behavior remained within institutional bounds. That system of conditioning was put to the test the moment Jacqueline Kennedy arrived. The Pope's week of protocol training acted as a firewall intended to filter his reactions. But his natural spontaneity bypassed that firewall entirely. He threw his arms open and shouted, "Welcome, Jackie!" Osho uses this example to advocate for a specific mental state, the clean slate. To remain spontaneous, the practitioner must actively wipe away their past conditioning on a daily basis. In moments of authentic presence, the spontaneous heart overrides the disciplined head, rendering institutional conditioning structurally useless. This requirement for spontaneity dictates Osho's mechanical approach to meditation. With thousands of techniques available, forcing oneself to use the wrong method simply recreates the pressure cooker effect. It turns meditation into another form of repression. Success requires matching one of 5 psychological types to its perfect technique. When this archetype aligns, the friction of willpower vanishes. Energy moves like an arrow directly to the core of the being. Osho observes that after 3 to 6 months of focusing on a matched technique, the practice ceases to be a conscious effort. It penetrates the intellectual layers and begins to function as a part of the practitioner's natural internal rhythm. In this framework, successful meditation isn't a victory of willpower. It is the result of structural alignment between the individual's psychological type and the mechanics of the technique. This creates a paradox. The practice of Vipassana requires sitting silently and doing nothing. Yet for many, this simple act of passive stillness triggers intense psychological agony. Osho diagnoses this agony as a symptom of a heavily repressed state. The pain isn't caused by the meditation. It is caused by the contents of the mind that the meditation reveals. Modern life relies on a defense mechanism of constant occupation. We use media and busy work to keep our internal volatility distracted. When that occupation stops, the distraction vanishes. The practitioner is then left defenseless against their own bottled-up neuroses. External stillness is an illusion if it merely serves as a rigid cap over an actively erupting internal psychology. Osho's model suggests that stillness cannot be forced onto a highly pressurized system. To sit silently, the pressure must first be dealt with. This makes active catharsis a mechanical prerequisite to meditation. The practitioner must intentionally vent the repressed energy from their system. Once that energy is vented, the structural state of the psyche changes. The need for constant distraction disappears, and the system naturally settles into equilibrium. This mechanical release serves to strip away the accumulated conditioning that obscures spontaneity. In this framework, Catharsis acts as the tool to restore the clean slate, returning the practitioner to the unconditioned presence of a child. Spiritual purity is not achieved through discipline. It requires the systematic dismantling of conditioning through catharsis, allowing pure spontaneity to arise from the void.